I'm Alex Caragonne. These remarks are extracted from a memoir that I wrote for Texas Architect. I conclude with a few personal observations. Colin never married. He was thus unencumbered with either wives or children. And for that matter, he was similarly unencumbered with the trappings of modern life. No television, no VCR, no stereo, no computer, no fax machine, one of those little radio cassette CD players he did in fact own, but I am unaware that he ever turned it on. For current events, he read the New York Times faithfully each day, as well as a somewhat eclectic assortment of magazines. But he knew nothing of films or sports, nor did he attend the theater, the ballet, or opera. As for music, he was partial to Handel, the Messiah, and Mozart, but not Beethoven, Haydn, Brahms, or Schubert. Bach he dismissed as the metronome. Regarding 20th century composers, he admired Stravinsky alone, but chiefly for his wit, I fear, as in, "My music is not modern, it is just badly played." The only concessions Colin made to modern life, it would appear, were inventions of the 19th century. The telephone, the typewriter, not the word processor, the automobile, and perhaps the camera. These he found useful in those matters which really animated him, that is, in conversation, writing, travel, and in connection with his reading, writing, and lecturing, photographic pics. I think it unremarkable to observe that Colin had little interest in a so-called inner life. Neither Sigmund Freud's theories of human behavior nor Jean-Paul Sartre's speculations as to the human condition served to excite him in any way. He was not in the least religious, if we accept the common meaning of the term, although he seemed to place great emphasis or value upon the role of the Roman Catholic Church as a guarantor of social stability and tradition. Predictably, he was not at all pleased with the liberal reforms instituted by Roncalli in the 1960s. In 1987, he forswore allegiance to the Queen to become, at 67, a citizen of his adopted country. So far as I am aware, the sole instance of a public confession of his faith, if not in God, then certainly in the American experiment in Republican government, although with Colin it was never easy to be quite so confident. For while he regularly deplored the British class system, he found no inconsistency in the recognition of an elite of intelligence and talent, with which he, with scarcely any false modesty, surely must have counted himself a member. As I have said, Colin was undistracted for the most part by those aspects of contemporary life that we all take for granted, and thus was able to concentrate his energies wonderfully. Possessed of an astounding photographic memory for the most obscure of architectural plans or urban spaces, he was without peer as a studio critic and lecturer. As astute an observer of the scene as any, Charles Moore summed him up shortly before his own death. "He knows a lot," said Charles. Certainly he read voraciously, and his digs, whether in Cayuga Heights, Camden Town, or the Kennedy Warren, was notable for the presence of a large, versatile library which he'd assembled in three broad categories: architecture, urban and furniture design, belles lettres and literature, and biography, philosophy, and history. As for poetry, he greatly admired Auden, Belloc, and Wordsworth, but biography in particular was a diversion for him, and because he remained fascinated with the great families of England and Western Europe, the Mitfords, the Habsburgs, the Massimis, he was often accused, not entirely without accuracy, of snobism. With respect to biography, although he frequently contemplated one of Benjamin Disraeli, such an extra architectural tour de force was never begun. Instead, a Rowe portrait of Victoria's favorite prime minister, together with his unfinished thesis on Inigo Jones' theoretical drawings, must now remain eternally out of our grasp in some undisclosed limbo. Colin loved conversation, but never confrontation. He read and he wrote. His letters in particular were erudite and witty and charming and entirely without affectation. At home, in his own personally fashioned context, surrounded by all of his books, his furniture largely eclectic, his prints mostly mannerist, and his memorabilia generally adorable kitsch, I must say, Colin was at his most comfortable and entertaining, and it is here, finally, that I mostly propose to think of him.